Welcome to the MCS webinar series. My name is Austin and I'll be your host. This webinar is a brief overview covering common use cases and scenarios regarding this topic. It is not intended to be all-encompassing. If assistance is needed, please contact McAfee Technical Support. Our presenters today are Jim Fraley and Zach Kreider. Dr. Jim Fraley is the Senior Practice Director for McAfee's Complex Enterprise Solutions. He also maintains his role as the Senior Threat Intelligence Strategist for McAfee's Advanced Programs Group. Jim has over 30 years of experience working for U.S. Department of Defense, commercial, state, and local, and the intelligence community. Jim's advanced research focused on detection of advanced persistent threats using machine learning for polymorphic malware. Zach Kreider is a Senior Enterprise Architect for McAfee's Complex Enterprise Solutions with over 10 years at McAfee assisting Fortune 1000 customers. He has a deep technical background with McAfee and a variety of third-party technologies. Zach also maintains the development, delivery, and expansion of Health Watch Service. On top of all that, Zach recently completed his Executive Master of Business Administration from Southern Methodist University. Ladies and gentlemen, Zach and Jim.
On behalf of Zach and I want to thank you for joining our webinar today. Today we're going to cover a number of topics. Our topics today, we're going to look at the cause and effect of misconfigurations and how Health Watch can actually help you. We're going to look at some of the overall trends and findings that we find in most common of our customers. We're also going to talk about customer outcomes. I'm going to cover these three, and Zach will cover essentially how our service works, what we deliver. We'll give you a little demo, so hopefully you get a lot of value out of this. One of the reasons we created Health Watch as a service was to really help some of our customers with some of the common misconfigurations of the McAfee environment. In many cases, we're looking to Health Watch to help us to optimize the operational environment and really build in some resiliency. Some of the things that we commonly see in customer environments is that a number of times there are some issues that plague an operational environment, such as human error, lack of team awareness of security and policies and the enforcement of those. Many times there's some controls that may have been overlooked. And then in many cases we see too many APIs that they have to keep track of. So one of the things that Health Watch does for us is take us through that and give us a quick view of that across the enterprise operations. One of the reasons we bring this to your attention is that Health Watch can alert us to several critical issues and misconfigurations. Many times these misconfigurations can lead to data breaches, unauthorized access, unauthorized logins, and eventually lead us for system downtime. All these things together allow us to look at it globally and help you from an operational environment perspective. Next, we're going to talk about the overall trends and findings that we get from Health Watch. As you can see here, one of the things that we struggle with our customers is the lack of time and skill set in the environment. Many times our customers are challenged with and need to address skill sets that can help them really deploy their security solution. In many cases, those solutions need to be tuned and configured to provide the absolute best coverage. The other thing is that we find our customers in a constant need for looking and seeking for talent, as there is a considerable shortage out there and high turnover in many cases. Lastly, a number of customers in their environments have the need to support end-user environments, have audits and regulatory requirements that consume a majority of the security staff time. So in many cases, Health Watch can provide some relief from these requirements and provide some additional time for your staff. When we look across McAfee customers, we see a number of interesting trends. In many cases, we see customers who want to consolidate environments. In many cases, they want to collapse multiple EPO servers to a single EPO server. We see a number of our customers want to standardize their baseline. In many cases, they have distant or different baselines, and so bringing those products into a common baseline helps them tremendously from an overall management perspective. The other thing is that we see a number of our customers who are migrating either to cloud or adopting a hybrid cloud strategy. So we see that a lot of times, and they want to manage both cloud infrastructure as well as on-prem infrastructure. And then the last thing is that a number of our customers, especially with our latest products, we provide the ability to automate day-to-day activity, to use server tasks and automated responses and use APIs so it can really help you from an operational construct. So these are the kinds of trends that we see across our customer set, and then we would be happy to help you understand better and dive deeper into some of these topics as well. Some of the common findings for McAfee customers include not utilizing the core endpoint features. So in certain cases, not taking advantage of GTI for products like ENS and VSE, which can provide another layer of detection and support. The other thing is that we see a number of our customers not using memory protection or exploit prevention from ENS, which is a core feature within our ENS or endpoint product. We also see customers who we look at compliance metrics and really not taking a look at maybe at a deeper dive at those metrics. So in certain cases, just simple things like IT best practice, or is your EPO database backed up? And actually, Health Watch will tell us some of those indicators. Devices that have stopped communicating to EPO, looking at some of those systems that are either have expired or no longer managed. And then taking a look at how your repositories are set up and if you have replication turned on or not. Some of the other things that we see from misconfiguration or performance issue is the number of exclusions can cause significant processing time. Also, doing wildcard searches for footprint, for wide area footprint, such as temp folders and things like that, can really kind of can also detract from your overall protection. We also see that from a hardware perspective, in many cases, we'll see some of the endpoints either from a CPU, memory, or hard disk perspective really not meet the minimum requirements and really cause some performance issues. And then lastly, one of the biggest things that we find is as a result of our Health Watch service is that being able to give customers direct feedback onto how their SQL server is set up and does it follow Microsoft best practices. So these are the kinds that you can get directly out of Health Watch that we would definitely tell you, give you some advice on and give you some next steps in terms of how to rectify some of these issues. So that's what you get from Health Watch in terms of a common finding. In many cases, our customers ask, what's the value of running Health Watch? The value of running Health Watch comes in multiple ways. One is we answer some of the better questions that we get from our customers. Are my systems running efficiently? Am I taking advantage of all the features that the McAfee technology has? Am I reducing my operational costs? What is going on with my investments? Also, can I somehow be able to collect and document the tribal knowledge and turn that into institutional knowledge? And then, overall, is McAfee and the service providing me the value that I need? I think we can answer those questions for you. Next, we'll focus on customer outcomes. We've answered the questions. Now let's take a look at how those outcomes are delivered. Health Watch was originally conceived to actually help customers do a number of different initiatives. One of those initiatives was to really help customers understand their operational environment, but more to the point of how do I reduce those risks? How do I optimize the environment and the resources that are associated with managing those assets? And then lastly is like, how do I better leverage the technology in my environment? How do I help my overall organization, do better detection and better response. So one of the things that we do from a Health Watch perspective is give you that whole health security posture view from a holistic standpoint. Let's dive down into what Health Watch service actually provides. Again, this is an automated service. It's a very lightweight service that it allows the customer to quickly download an executable and query your environment and provide McAfee back that data very, very quickly. That goes into an analysis, into an analytic platform that allow us to take a look across your environment. So why is that important? Why is it important? It's because we look at across your environment. The other questions that we answer is, what environments does it cover? We look at your EPO, ENS, VSE, and NSP products. And we include, as part of our automated service, the diagnostics and the analytics that accompany all of those environments. The other thing is that we look at the data. We actually provide the sample report or the draft report to our subject matter experts, who then review that and actually have a customer readout that you get online to an expert who can actually tell you what are some of the details. The other thing we do as part of our overall service is give you a 30, 60, 90-day plan. In some cases, we organize things very quickly to a 30, 60, 90-day action plan that allows you to quickly understand and assess the type of tasks and activities that you might want to accomplish. As I mentioned in a previous slide, our methodology is to extract and review data from the customer environment. So we have a 6-step process that we go through that allow us to do in-depth diagnostics on your environment and analyze that data and put that into an action plan. The first step is to extract that data. Typically, this is a quick process that allows us to connect to your database and pull data, typically in the 20 to 30 minute time frame. From that data is encrypted, and we'll send that data back for analysis, and that will typically run in typically an hour or two after upload. We will review those findings typically in the next day or two and look at all the different various settings and configurations. Within Health Watch itself, we have over 300 configurations that we review. Step 4 is we actually create the action plan that I talked about, 30, 60, 90, in a very structured way in terms of criticality and in terms of things that can be pushed off for a little bit. The next step is that we'll review that plan, put that plan together for you, and then give you a readout. Typically, this will typically take you as a customer 1 hour or less, but if you have a lot of questions or if you have a lot of technical questions, we can certainly, that can go beyond that. And then the last step is to actually put that plan into place, look at the details of those tasks and actually get moving toward remediation. So this is our process. Health Watch really encompasses all 6 of these steps and gets you in the customer environment moving in a positive direction. In working with a number of different customers across a number of environments, we certainly know that in certain cases we have enclosed networks and enterprises that do not share data outside of their corporate walls or outside their boundaries. In that case, we have created a federal Health Watch tool that allow us to collect information on site and produce the actual report on site. This allows us to do that in a very quick way. We do some of the analysis and analytics on site, but we do not do all of them. And in certain cases, our federal tool provides us all the configuration information, also does some of the heavy lifting in terms of misconfigurations that our enterprise tool does. But this is an option for customers who have enclosed networks and provides great value for for those customers who cannot send data back to McAfee.
Next, we'll cover how the service works. When you're ready to engage McAfee for the Health Watch service offering, the first step in the process is once you register in the portal, you can register yourself, your entire team, or even your management staff in the portal. And this will provide everyone access to the data that's collected by the tool uploaded. You get full visibility to everything that was collected. And you'll have access to the different KPIs or data metrics that we've pulled, also the data analytics that we've done with the raw data that you've uploaded to the Health Watch portal, and how that compares to best practices, and also where you rank against other customers of similar size within the same industry, and how you rank against all other McAfee customers. After we have you registered in the portal and we're ready to engage through the Health Watch service, we'll initiate an engagement, which you will get an email notifying you that engagement was kicked off. You'll be able to see the active engagement within the Health Watch portal, and you'll be able to download the standalone executable to place on the machine in your environment that'll begin the data collection. One of the things that we've built with the Health Watch service offering is nothing's actually required to be installed on your McAfee infrastructure or even in your environment in general to be able to run Health Watch. There is no specific version required for EPO, ENS, or VSC required for the Health Watch service to run. It is completely backwards compatible. And like I said, all we provide you is a standalone executable that can run from either a workstation or a server. It just needs to be able to access the EPO database, the Network Security Manager database, and have the Windows domain account that will allow us to connect through WMI to actually pull the hardware configurations from these different infrastructure servers in your environment to analyze those against best practices. Once we're working with you and are ready to execute the Health Watch service in your environment and it connects to your EPO instance or your Network Security Manager instance, typically data collection takes anywhere between 5 to 15 to even sometimes 30 minutes to really collect the data in the raw format. During the collection process, there is no performance impact to the EPO server or the Network Security Manager server, as it's really just reading out the raw data. Once the tool has all the data collected, it'll encrypt the file or encrypt the data and manually upload it back to the Health Watch portal. If you are running the tool on a workstation or a server that is in an air-gapped environment that does not allow internet connection, then the tool will create a local encrypted file on the device that ran the tool, and you will just provide this to the consultant that's working with you, and they'll manually upload it to the Health Watch portal, which will begin the analysis of the data that was collected. Once the data is collected from your environment, whether it's one EPO server or multiple EPO servers, the data is uploaded and the consulting services, we complete the engagement. Typically about an hour to 2 hours later after the data is fully uploaded, the results will be posted within the portal for your review. But also during that time, a subject matter expert will start coming over the data that was uploaded, looking at the different data points that we collected, as well as the analytics that we did against your environment to see how those align with best practices. And they'll start compiling a report to provide you that goes in the 30, 60, 90-day action plan and bring up any other kind of other KPIs or unique instances in the data that may need to be brought to your attention to get resolved or remediated. Once the subject matter expert has done a full analysis of all the data that you uploaded and reviewed all the analytics against McAfee best practices, we'll set up a time with you to review the report, go over the plan of the 30, 60, 90-day action plan, as well as walking you through the portal to get you familiar with all the data that was collected and to help guide you through and help you and your team understand the data that was collected, where to look for key information, key KPIs, and different analytics that was performed on your data that you then can share with your management teams or executive teams to show the value that McAfee is providing in the environment and also allow them to see areas where you guys can improve the overall posture of McAfee within your environment. Next, we'll cover what deliverables you get out of the Health Watch service offering. One of the key deliverables out of the Health Watch service offering is the report. So we provide you a report that covers all the data points that were discovered in your environment, any items that were outside of best practices or that we thought should be brought to your attention. We'll also provide you an overall rating. So where do you rank against all other McAfee customers on the overall health of your environment? And one of the key things in here within the 30, 60, 90-day action plan is we try to break down the findings into 3 unique categories, whether that be performance, compliance, or operations. And then we go further and provide you a heat map. What's the level of criticality of the finding? What's the level of risk of the finding of not doing anything to remediate it? And then what's the level of complexity, so skill set to remediate the finding? And also what's the level of effort? Is this a 1-day task, a 2-week task, or is this something that'll take like a month to remediate? We'll provide that to you in this heat map, which will really help you guide you and help you understand what to kind of tackle first and what order to tackle them. Also in this report, we'll provide you specific KV articles for each finding, along with white papers, whether that be from McAfee or Microsoft in the case of SQL. So we'll provide you all the supporting material to enable you to actually go remediate these findings on your own and enable your team to become much more knowledgeable of the McAfee tool sets within your environment. Outside of just giving you the deliverable, you'll also have access to all your data within the Health Watch portal that we registered you and your team on at the beginning of the engagement. The unique thing here is we provide you trending information. So the more times you run Health Watch in your environment, the more data points you have to be able to analyze and compare. So is your environment improving on overall health? Or are there new items that could be bubbling up that are driving down the overall health and efficiency of your McAfee tool sets in your environment? We'll also allow you to actually compare your overall health results to how do you compare against all McAfee customers? How do you compare against customers of similar node size that they're managing? And also, how do you compare against customers within the same vertical, right? Are you leading the pack? Are you in the middle? Or are you behind, right? This will really help gauge and help you understand where you are on the overall security posture of utilizing the McAfee tool sets. But we'll also provide you detailed analysis within each data point that we collect in your environment that allows you and your team to go and review. And this is really a great opportunity for one, to documenting the configurations in your environment. So as you're bringing on new staff members or people rotating in and out of your team, you have a documented area within the Health Watch portal that you can provide them access to get up to speed on how the environment's configured, and also helps to understand how things are configured as far as changes. So if someone makes a change, it gives you a snapshot in time to go back and see how things were configured prior to the change. Next, we'll cover a real-world use case from the Health Watch service offering, as well as going over customer feedback. Some common use cases when working with customers around the Health Watch service offering that we kind of get quite frequently is can we reduce our operational costs? How many versions do we have within the environment, whether it be ENS, VSC, the McAfee agents, or we've lost all our tribal knowledge, how are things configured, we have nothing documented, and also are our policies tuned both from a security perspective as well as performance, and is there any other features or functionality that we're not taking advantage of today within the McAfee toolset that we may not be aware of? One specific customer where we ran Health Watch provided a very good use case for the actual service offering and the value that it provides. So this customer had over 129 physical infrastructure servers supporting ETO with over 29 different ETO consoles. This was a very heavy burden from an operational cost perspective, as well as the operational team was getting burned down with a fatigue from jumping from console to console, comparing data. One of the things we're able to do with Health Watch were identify all these servers, the hardware they were on, the number of consoles, and provide a very strategic plan for the customer to be able to migrate off the physical infrastructure onto virtual servers and reduce their consoles down from 29 servers down to 8. So they only had 8 consoles after the consolidation, which helped them reduce the operations costs by about $2.5 million and saved them close to another $500,000 by just moving to the virtual environment, for a total of about $3 million in cost savings that they had, because Health Watch was able to identify these key items and metrics and help provide them a strategic plan to get better operational efficiency out of their investments. We were able to also streamline their operations and reduce kind of the operational burden that was placed on the team by streamlining their baselines that they had. So this customer had close to 10 to 20 different baselines within their environment. We're able to provide and get that down to about 3 different baselines in their environment, which greatly helped the operational team from have to manage multiple different product versions to actually only have to manage about 3 to 4 different product versions in their environment. This also helped them from a patching perspective because instead of having to deploy several different patches because they were down to several baselines of their environment, it made it easier on the operations team to patch. It also raised their protection because everything was on a consistent version or a consistent baseline. It actually improved their protections from where they were about in the 60 to 70% range to they had 90% better protections because they were on a consistent baseline across the environment. And it was also tuned for optimal performance on the endpoints, as well as taking consideration of security. And this also helped them from a compliance standpoint. So anything that came outside of the baseline, automation was built into all the ETO servers for this customer to allow ETO to take it, kill itself and reduce those baselines in the environment on its own without having to have manual intervention to touch those different baselines and do upgrades. So the product really started working for the customer, and the customer stopped working for the product. So additional feedback that we've gotten from customers that have ran the Health Watch service in their environment has been overwhelmingly positive. Customers from help them understand where they need to prioritize their team, as their team was typically kind of running around playing whack-a-mole of what do they need to focus on or remediate. Health Watch gave them a very strategic plan for the next 3 months within the 36 and 90-day action plan that the team was able to focus on and remediate those findings and stayed very focused and helped to reduce a lot of the time that they're running around trying to figure out what needed to be fixed within McAfee. Other customers found it very helpful of having just one-on-one time with a subject matter expert, not only reviewing their data and their environment to give them a proactive plan to remediate things, but they were able to ask questions to the subject matter expert of how other customers are doing things, other ways to introduce automation into their environment, and really help improve the overall performance and compliance. We also have other customers that got a lot of benefit out of identifying the underlying endpoints configurations. So not only from a baseline perspective, but how were the devices configured? So for example, this last customer down here was experiencing performance issues with ENS. And what Health Watch was able to bring to their attention were the endpoint devices in their network weren't actually optimally configured to run all the McAfee solutions, nor were they even configured to Microsoft best practices for Windows 10. So they were under-resourced, both from a CPU, RAM, and disk perspective. And it really helped to engage the customer, bring that to their attention, so then they're able to communicate with the end users and the help desk of, here's the true problem going in the environment. And the remediation plan for this customer, for instance, was actually building a strategic plan to move them to virtual desktops to remove some of those performance pains that they're seeing because of the under-spec systems in their environment.
So we'll give you a demo of the Health Watch portal. The primary page covers kind of the engagement and the different areas that were scored during the collection that were analyzed. So here we'll look at the EPO section, which is a lot of different key areas of different data points that we've collected from the environment that really help us understand of how the environment's configured and how it's being used today. This gives us enough different data points to make recommendations to improve the overall performance, compliance, and operations of the EPO server itself in the console to make your job easier. In the Findings tab, this is where we'll show the different areas that we've collected in the environment and how it aligns to McAfee best practices within our thresholds. So anything that falls outside of a best practice will be highlighted as a red dot on the right-hand side. Another area too that we'll dig into is on the SQL. So most customers usually don't manage the backend database for EPO. It's typically managed by another team. So this gives you a deep understanding of how the environment's configured and also helps us understand how the environment's configured as well. So we can make recommendations to improve the overall performance and sizing of the environment. In the findings section for SQL, it's pretty much like EPO. This is actually pulled from McAfee and Microsoft of how SQL is configured. So we can highlight key areas that fall outside of our best practices that need to draw your attention. On the infrastructure side, we'll just identify the different versions you have deployed from EPO and agent handlers. On the managed systems, this is where we'll help understand like how many devices are being managed, how many devices do not meet the minimum recommendations of like less than 4 CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, less than 10 gigs free on the C drive, or not communicating with EPO. We also have a findings page for this one as well, with our best practices of how to manage the environments that we see and manage on a regular basis. Another section is the events section, which is broken out to the audit, client, and threat events, which we also break down to give you visibility of how old events are in your database from a 30, 60, and 90-day standpoint. This really helps us to understand the size of your environment and it's what makes up your database. Same thing here, we have a findings section that helps us analyze the events in your environment and how they align to best practices. Another key area is the threat section. So we have over about 90 different KPIs that really help you understand of how the environment is working for you today and what the tool sets are doing for you and the ROI they're providing. On the product version tab, we'll go through and show how many versions you have deployed the McAfee agent on your workstations and servers, and the other versions of, let's say, ENS deployed or DXL in your environment. Really helps us identify if you have any end-of-life products. The product configuration area here for EPO helps us understand how the tools are configured in your environment today. So this bubbles up any kind of key issues of GTI being disabled or exploit prevention being disabled. We'll also have key other configurations for other products, so ENS, VSC, and native encryption and solid core, to name a few. We'll also go through and look at your policies. How many policies do you have for each section of the products you have in your environment? So in this case, ENS and VSC. But we'll also dig into each one of your policies and help identify key areas in the policies that are outside of best practices and bring those to your attention. So in this case, the settings, what your environment was, and the recommended values of McAfee best practice. So we'll go through and analyze, like I said, all your E&S and VSE policies to this manner. So anything that falls outside of a McAfee best practice will bring to your attention to get remediated. Another key area in the policies section is the exclusions. So we actually go through and analyze all your exclusions within E&S and VSE, and we put it on one screen. The nice thing is we have all your exclusions in one area, so you can export these to an Excel spreadsheet or CSV. We'll also identify bad exclusions, so like excluding a C drive, a temp folder that exposes you to a risk, or could have a performance impact of a wildcard misplaced. But we'll also give you an overall score of each one of your policies. We'll also go through and analyze your hardware, both for EPO, SQL, your agent handlers, Move, virus scan for storage, for instance. We'll help you understand, is the environment configured from a hardware standpoint to meet the needs of the managed endpoints and the products you have deployed. This gives us a deep understanding of your environment and help make recommendations to improve the overall performance and scalability of your infrastructure. Much like all the other areas, we'll also have a finding section here that will help identify any areas that fall outside of McAfee best practice.
So in closing, we'll go over a few items that may answer some of the questions you guys have already asked. The Health Watch service offering can be consumed in one of two ways. One, if you've upgraded or purchased a customer success plan, you are entitled to Health Watch. So the Premier Success Plan has 4 Health Watches entitled. Enhanced Success Plans have 2 Health Watches entitled, and the Essential Success Plan has 1 Health Watch entitled. Outside of that, we do have some standalone offerings. We have a subscription offering, which allows 1 run of Health Watch per quarter in a given year of the subscription offering, or we also provide a 1-week on-site Health Watch offering, which covers running the Health Watch tool and working with you to remediate the findings where possible while on site. If you have any questions around these offerings, or if it's included in your current success plan, please reach out to your sales account manager or your channel partner for assistance.
Thank you, guys. We have expanded our customer self-service capabilities, including, but not limited to, our McAfee Enterprise Support app for Android and iOS, new product support pages, the support community, McAfee Support YouTube channel, and the social media help needs on Facebook and Twitter. The EPO Support Center plugin is available free of charge to download with your EPO application. You can learn more about EPO Support Center on the McAfee Support YouTube channel and on support.mcafee.com.
Together is power. This concludes today's webinar.